In this first video, we're going to talk about the rule of thirds. The rule of third proposes that an image should be imagined as divided into 9 equal parts by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and 2 equally spaced vertical. Wait a minute. I know what you're thinking. The rule of third is already available everywhere online. You can find it on YouTube, you can find tutorials. You don't need me to tell you what is the rule of third. What I would like to do today is to go beyond the rule of third and show you how you can use this rule to be like a master photographer.
Sir, yes, sir!
What the rule of third tells us is basically to place a subject along the line of the thirds in our frame, as you can see clearly in these pictures. This is basically the opposite of placing your subject in the middle. On top of that, what the rule of third tells us is that our subject should be looking into the picture. If your subject is moving, your subject should be walking into the picture and not outside the picture. Now, the very interesting about this, and something that really bugged me for a long time, is that when you place one subject on one side of your image, what happens is your photo is now unbalanced. Something is too heavy on one side and it makes your photo fall, like the visual weight of your picture is wrong, which is fine if this is the goal you want to achieve. But most of the time, and in my case, I like to balance my images. So the rule of third then doesn't work anymore. So what could we do with that? Well, in very simple ways, if you place one subject on the side of the picture, why not placing something else on the other side of your picture? In which case, you will somehow create a balance. And what I would recommend you do is trying to place something on the opposite side of your picture. If something is on the bottom right corner and something else is on the top left corner, your eyes will travel through the frame in a diagonal line, which will increase even more the dynamism of your picture. What also most tutorials forget to mention is that you can apply the rule of thirds in terms of proportions and not necessarily lines. Instead of having things placed along these lines, what about trying to divide your image into 1/3 and 2/3 in terms of proportions? The rule of third goes even beyond that. Have you heard about the golden ratio, right? Composing your images following this old Renaissance painting thing. Whoever thinks about that when composing, I don't think about that when I compose my pictures, where's my golden ratio thing? But this is when the rule of thirds can help you. Basically, by placing 2 elements on opposite thirds in your frame and by having a line joining them, you will instantly create a golden ratio. Obviously, the rule of thirds being just a rule, you can break the rule. So how can we break the rule of thirds? Well, the first thing we could do is not place things on the thirds of our frame. And what happens when you do that? We usually place our subject in the middle. This works really well if you want to isolate your subject, if you want to give a feeling of loneliness to your subject, or motionless if things are not dynamic at all. And of course, the rule of third is not something you have to follow exactly by the letter. And in some situations, for example here, there was nothing interesting in my foreground and I wanted to have more sky. And what happens is I compose things like this. Thanks everyone for watching this first video. Please feel free to share it if you enjoyed it. There are a lot of comments you can write down here. We would like to hear from you, whether you like the video or not, and what we'd like us to maybe talk about in the future. Do not forget, of course, to subscribe to our channel. Thank you everyone and see you soon.